Alright guys, so this tool is a little bit different and we force you guys to download or sign up for or do some random thing on a lot of different services and applications and tools and stuff. But I'd have to say that if you have that IFTTT is probably the thing that you can have the most fun with. It's it's a joy to explore this and create recipes and really learn to think in a new way. But so, what is IFTTT? That's kind of an awkward acronym, we know. So, it stands for if this, then that, which means if something happens, then something else will happen. That will become more apparent as we go through this. And so, create yourself an account. I already have one, so I'll just sign in. And so, IFTTT is based around these things called recipes. A recipe is a combination of a trigger and an action that you activate from channels. Channels are various web-related services or internet-based actions. So the trigger in this particular thing, this recipe helps me remember to water my plants. So if it's 7 o'clock on a Monday, then I'll receive a text message telling me to water the plant. So if this happens, then that happens. That's it's very basic, very simple, very understandable. There's dozens of different channels that you can choose from that all have their own set of unique triggers and actions to go along with them. So this is what I mean by it's fun to play around because there is so much stuff in here to learn about, and they have a great browse section, lots of popular stuff. And so what we're going to do today is, in about 2 weeks, we're going to this event called NPDev, the Nonprofit Development Summit. And so we want to get sort of we want to have a history of what went down on Twitter relating to NPDev. So we're going to create an if this then that recipe that will search Twitter for the nonprofit dev hashtag and then archive it into a Google Drive spreadsheet. So let's go through making that. So I'm going to create a new recipe. So if this happens, we're going to set a trigger. In this case, it is something to do with Twitter. When you're doing this, you're going to have to authorize Twitter to be linked up with IFTTT. So, new tweet from search. There's lots of different triggers, play around with them. But we're going to use new tweet from search. When the search term is hashtag NPDev. So if this happens, there's a new tweet in this that comes up in the search NPDev, then that will happen. We're going to do a Google Drive. Add row to spreadsheet. This is the kind of data that lends itself to a spreadsheet. We could create a document, which would just be, we'd have dozens of documents. That's a bad way of doing things. We could append the tweet to a word processing document, but I prefer it in spreadsheet form. So add row to spreadsheet. We're going to call it what's the name of the spreadsheet that's going to be created. Of course, I also linked up my Google Drive account to IFTTT, so it has the permission to create new files. So I'm going to create a file called actually NPDev Summit. It's also going to create this folder IFTTT, and it's going to create a folder inside that called Twitter because it's assuming that we might have multiple recipes to do with Twitter, so it's just going to store all those files in one place. So this thing, the formatted row, this is basically what do you want to have in the spreadsheet. So what's going to be in column A, B, C, D, and so forth. And so you can select the exact things that you want. So I'm going to erase all of this and decide what I want to be there. So the pertinent stuff, like what's the important parts of a tweet, I suppose it's the name It's the handle of the person that's doing it. It's the tweet itself, and maybe something else. Who knows? So let's select the ingredients. Let's say first I want it to be the username of the person that did it, and the text of the tweet. Is there anything else that we need? I guess maybe a time. Wouldn't hurt to have a timestamp. Now, I don't know why it doesn't just add these, but we're missing something very important. You see where it says use bar bar bar. These things are called pipes. So use 3 pipes to separate cells. That means that these guys within the curly braces represent a bit of data, so the username or the text of the tweet or when it was created. But if we leave it like this, then they're all going to show up in the exact same cell, and that's not very good. So we just add 3 pipes. Oops. There. And so now they'll stay in their own lanes. So create the action. I'll just leave this as it is. You can make something less descriptive or more. Who cares? So let's review. If this thing happens, then this thing happens. If there's a new tweet that shows up in the hashtag NPDev search on Twitter, then it's going to Ifttt is going to add a row in a Google spreadsheet that it will create and then keep appending rows to. So let's create it and then give it a test run. Now, sometimes it doesn't fire immediately, so hopefully this will work. If not, then we're just going to assume that it works, and I'll just put a screenshot below where I'm pasting this video because I am too lazy to learn how to edit videos. So let's make a tweet and hope that it shows up in there. Where are we? Well, we're in there somewhere. Not sure where ours is. Let's go check if the recipe is fired. That's strange. Where is our tweet? Oh, there it is. Okay. I was afraid that I misspelled it or something. That would be embarrassing. It's not even a word and I misspelled it. Anyway, let's see. Here we are over at my Google Drive. Has it created this new folder? Has it run? Okay, it hasn't run yet. So let's see if we can force it to. So we'll say check recipe now, and so it'll go out and see if this thing has happened. And so hopefully it has. Oh, there it goes. So as you can see, this folder was not here a second ago. So we'll do ifttt. There's Twitter, npdev summit. See this stuff didn't exist a second ago. And there we are. So I was the one that tweeted this out, but so there's probably going to be people from like 50 or so orgs at this NP Dev Summit. And so they're going to be tweeting about stuff, and we want to have sort of a national history, or we want to have a record of all the stuff that happened and all the conversation that was going on. We can work back on conversations. It's just a great tool to have when you go to conferences, is to have a record of what people were talking about. And so we see that at 754 Everett program said super stoked to be coming to Aspiration Tech. And so at some point today, probably, since Aspiration is super on their social media, they'll like that or reply or retweet it or something. And it will include the npdev summit tag, and then that will create a new row once the trigger or once the recipe fires. So that's how you do that. Highly, highly recommend that you hit browse and just play around and make these things. You can have, let's say, Instagram. Whenever you upload something to Instagram, it'll also create a copy in your Google Drive, or it'll send you an email copy of it. Or where's the one? You can tie it in with your phone, and so when you send it a text, it will call you and recite a script. It's great for getting out of awkward situations. Um, Really, the sky's the limit with this stuff. They just add these new Android things like when your phone gets into a specific geographic area, then it will do something. Like when you go to the office, it'll silence your phone. Anyway, that is IFTTT. Play around.